She was murdered for catching an Indian priest and nun in a sex act. 3 decades later, justice is served. CNN. The dead nun's slippers were scattered on the convent kitchen floor, one near the entrance, the other by the fridge. Her white veil was found snagged on the doors. An open bottle of water was leaking onto the tiles. In the corner of the rooms was an axe. Officials discovered the crime scene described in court documents seen by CNN as St. Pius ex-convent hostel in South India on March 27, 1992. Later that day, they found Sister Abhaya's body in the nearby wall at the Indian convent in the city of Kottayam, Kerala. A post-mortem examination revealed she had nail marks on both sides of her neck and two lacerate wounds on her head. Her body had multiple abrasions, and she had sustained a fracture on her skull. Despite her wounds and the kitchen crime scene, no one was brought to court over Sister Abhaya's murder for 27 years. Instead, what followed was years of death-end investigations, fraught with allegations of corruption. Finally, last December, guilty verdicts were handed down to the priest and nun who had gone to extraordinary lengths to protect their illicit relationship. The court found Sister Abhaya had worked in on them while they were engaging a sex act in the kitchen, and killed her to conceal their sins. They were sentenced to life in prison. After nearly 3 decades of fighting of justice, her family have one overriding question. Why did it take so long? Asked Sister Abhaya's brother Biju Thomas. Failed investigation. When she died, Sister Abhaya was a student at a local college run by the Knanaya Catholic Church in Kottayam, then home to about 1.8 million people. Among India's Hindu majority population, 2.3% followed Christianity, a figure that hasn't changed in more than 2 decades. But Kerala has a sizable Christian community, around 18% of its people. According to India's Central Bureau of Investigation, called the CBI, which prosecuted the case, Sister Abhaya woke up at or about 4:15 a.m. on that day of her murder to study for an exam. She went to the ground floor kitchen to fetch some water, and it was there prosecutors said she found Father Thomas Kotu and Sister Seppi performing a sex act. Father Kotu taught psychologist at the school, and Sister Seppi was in charge of the convent hostel where the act took place. Prosecutors said the pair maintained an illicit relationship. The father Thomas Couture was arrested in 2008, 16 years after Sister Abhaya's body was found in a well. The night before the murder, prosecutors said the priest snuck onto the convent grounds and stayed in the sister Safi's room, which was on the ground floor of the hostel, near the kitchen. When they realized the young nun had seen them in a compromising position, the pair hit her on the back of head with a small axe kept in the kitchen, then threw her body into a well on the hostel grounds. The details of what happened that night didn't come to light until years later. After immense pressure from activists and the young nun's family, her father in particular refused to give up. The first investigation into Sister Abhaya's death was opened by the Kottayam West Police Crime Branch on the day her body was found. A year later, it concluded the cause of her death was suicide. But Sister Abhaya's father, Matthew Thomas, refused to accept their version of events and urged the CBI, the nation's premier investigation agency, to take over the case. They picked it up in 1993, but for 12 years did not charge anyone for her death. Instead, between 1993 to 2005, the CBI filed 4 reports, including 3 closure petitions, arguing the chief judicial magistrate to drop the case. In their first report, they agree with the Kottayam police that the cause of death was suicide by drowning. However, it was not accepted by the chief judicial magistrate, and the case was reopened. Their second report, published in 1996, was inconclusive. They could not determine if it was suicide or homicide. Investigators once again urged the case to be closed. This was once again rejected. Their third report, published in 1999, states it was a homicide but didn't nominate any suspects. This was rejected as unsatisfactory by the chief judicial magistrate. Yet another report was filed in 2005, re- reiterating the case was untraced, as they could not identify any suspects, and once again it was rejected by the chief judicial magistrate. After this, the investigation was transferred from the CBI New Delhi branch to the CBI in the southern city of Cochin in Kerala. Finally, in 2009, the CBI formally charged Father Kutu and Sister Seppi with murder, as well as another priest, Father Jose Putri Kyle, who police said was involved in the killing. All 3 denied the charge, as well as allegations of conducting an improper relationship. They filed a dismissal request to get the case dropped, and it took another 9 years before a judge ordered Father Kutu and Sister Seppi to face the trial. Charges against Father Putri Kyle were dropped due to the lack of evidence. The trial. On August 5, 2019, the trial finally began. Prosecutors argued that Father Kutu and Sister Seppi went to remarkable lengths to cover up their relationship and crime. According to the CBI, the sister Seppi underwent hymenoplasty, hymenoplasty, a cosmetic fix to restore or reconstruct her hymen. The day before her arrest in 2008 to make it appear that she was still a virgin. In court, prosecutors accused police officers from the Kottaya West Crime Branch of tampering with the evidence and destroying documents crucial to the investigation. It is reasonable to suppose that Father Couture had at his control the immense resources of the diocese in terms of the money and material, and could command the evidence of priests, nuns, and laymen. The prosecution said. Prosecutors alleged lead investigators, including the superintendent and the deputy superintendent of the police, were instrumental in the cover-up. The judge agreed with the prosecution's assertions that only police investigators fabricated and destroyed the evidence, including the plastic bottle, Sister Abhaya's slippers, and her white veil. He ordered the state's police head to ensure that such misdeeds on the part of the police do not occur in future. Only one charge was made against an investigating officers, but that was dropped in 2008 after he died. At least one other lead investigator from the Kottaya West Police Crime Branch, who was accused of fabricating and destroying evidence, also died before the case concluded. Father Couture maintains his innocence. "I have done no wrong. God is with me," he told the local reporters as he arrived in court in December 23rd for the sentencing hearing. His lawyer said the case relied entirely on circumstantial evidence. "There is no conclusive evidence," said Father Couture's lawyer B. Sivdas. "And there was a delay in the investigation, a delay in finding the accused. There are so many loopholes." The court convicted them because the case became a sensation. Suicide or murder? Sister Abhaya von Bina Thomas was a polite and quiet child, according to her brother, Biju Thomas. They grew up in Kottayam and were devout Catholics and followers of Jesus Christ. "I remember when she was about 5 or 6, she began taking a huge interest in God and the Bible," said Thomas, now 51 and living in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. "She would read the Bible religiously and take comfort in these teachings. Everyone loved her. She was always laughing." Sister Abhaya was 19 when she was called to the religious life, according to Thomas. The family had relatives in Germany and Italy who were also nuns. Thomas said that his sister admired the respect they received and the work that they did. She wanted to be respected also and devote her life to Jesus, he said. Thomas was 24 when he was told that his sister had died by suicide. I was also confused because she was happy and she was following her dream. Why would she have killed herself, he said. Thomas traveled back to Kottayam town from the state of Gujarat, where he was studying, to be with his family and take care of his sister's funeral arrangement. Several days later, he visited her body in the morgue and read the post-mortem report that revealed his sister had had injuries and nail marks to her neck. This to me showed that something had happened to her before she was thrown in the well, he said. Sister Safi filed an 8-page written statement stating that Sister Apaya suffered from psychological depression. She claimed that Sister Apaya came from an economically weak family and was not good enough in her studies. Some other nuns were staunch upholders of the suicide theory, according to final judgment. They endeavored to give all support to the accused, the judgment said. It was very hurtful to hear those things said about my sister, says Thomas. She didn't kill herself, she was silenced. Sister Abhaya's father, a low-wage farmer, fought tooth and nails for his daughter, Thomas said. We were poor family. We are poor people. We didn't have much money, said Thomas. But my father would travel for hours a day by bus to prove the police to reopen the case and give us the truth. He suffered a lot, said Thomas. He always says someone killed my Bina. I'm sure of it. Activists pushes for answers. Days after news broke of Sister Abhaya's death, the suspicious nature of the case piques the interest of young activist Jomom Pudemprakar. When I heard details about Sister Abhaya's case, the overturned fruit basket, the eggs in the kitchen, her slippers in different positions, I knew immediately that something bad had happened to her, said Pudem Purakar, who said he was inspired by Kottayam-based freedom fighter K.E. Mammen to do good in the world. I knew she hadn't committed suicide like the police and church said, he said. Pudem Prakar soon formed the Action Council to get justice for the murdered nun. He took a signed petition along with Sister Abhaya's father to the CBI detailing all the allegations of corruption and listing key witnesses. Every time the CBI filed a petition to close the case, Pudempuraka kept the pressure on, using the Indian media to keep the case in the public eye and urging investigators to dig deeper. There was one witness in particular who had the testimony Pudempuraka felt was key to convicting the case. Adaka Raju was a thief by profession, according to court document. He had trespassed onto the hostel campus on the night of the murder to steal copper plates from the terrace, which he planned to sell, according to court document. Raju had stolen copper plate from the hostel twice before, but on his third attempt, the night of the murder, he told the court that he saw two men approaching his staircase. He identified one of them was Father Couture. During the trial, defense lawyers vehemently argued against Raju's version of events and sought to discredit him by branding him untrustworthy and a man of no integrity. They also alleged that he was a witness planted by the prosecution. The prosecution, however, said Raju was taken into custody by the crime branch and kept in the station for 58 days. He was suspected subjected to inhumane torture inhumane torture by the officers there, who tried to extract a confession to pin the murder on him. He stood his ground and did not budge even an inch, according to the prosecution. He was offered a substantial monetary reward and a job for his wife and the meeting of educational expenses of his children and the house to live in. But he did not succumb to this blandishment. The police even arrested a acquiescent of Rajus and tortured him for 2 days, according to court documents seen by CNN. The judge states that the acquaintance's brother brother was also arrested and tortured for 6 days. He was repeatedly told to testify that Raju had committed Sister Abhaya's murder. Raju faced many difficulties in coming forward, said Putan Puraka. The defense completely dehumanized him, but he was one of the only witnesses who stood his ground despite the mounting pressure. I dedicated my life to this case and I wanted to see it through the end, said Putempraka, who continued to push the case even when it endangered his safety. Father Couture, who threatened Putemprakas at the protest for Sister Abhaya, according to court document. Father Couture warned Putempraka that he would be handled in the proper manner, while also pointing out that no one working against the church had ever been spared. Long wait for justice. Because religious authorities in India were held in such high regard, victims often found it difficult to come forward if their perpetrators are involved with the church, according to the former president of our India Catholic Union, John Dayal. However, in recent years, a number of victims in Kerala have come forward to seek justice. In April 2019, Catholic Bishop Franco Mulaka was charged with raping a nun multiple times between 2014 and 2016. A group of nuns who spoke against his alleged abuse claims the church attempted to transfer them to other parts of the country in a bid to silence them. Muraka, who was now based in the northern states of Punjab, was denied all allegations. Former Catholic priest Robin Badakumcheri was sentenced to 20 years in prison in 2019 for raping a 16-year-old girl in Kerala. The incident came to light only after the victim gave birth in February 2017. The victim and her parents attempt to redirect the focus away from the priest. Her father went as far as telling the court that he was the one who raped his daughter. Sister Abhaya's parents died in 2015 before their daughter's attackers were brought to justice. I just wish my parents could have been here to see it happen, said Thomas, Sister Abhaya's brother. That's all they ever wanted. Thomas said he can rest in peace and move on with his life, now that the case is finally over. However, he said he still struggled to reconcile his sister's love for the church with the horror of what happened that night, and the fact that those who purported, purportedly purported to share her fate were the ones who took her away.